I found Viagra in her purse, so I swapped it for laxatives. Later, finding male protection in her purse, I poked holes in it. Weeks later, when she excitedly said, "You're gonna be a dad," she didn't know the half of it. I opened her purse expecting gum, found Viagra instead. That's when the alarms went off in my head, but I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I swapped them for laxatives, and when I found the condoms, let's just say I gave them. Breathing room, weeks later when she looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're gonna be a dad," I smiled, because only one of us knew what was really coming.
Hey, story lover. Welcome to the Narrative Hub, Reddit Stories. Believe me, this adventure gets wild, but it's only epic with you. Seriously, you make this possible. Want more stories? Greater adventure? Smash subscribe right now. Smash like. Comment below. Let's go.
It all started on a Tuesday, a day so painfully ordinary it felt like a rerun. I was heading out for work, patting my pockets for my keys, my wallet, and coming up empty on the gum. I knew Jennifer kept a pack in her purse, the ridiculously expensive kind she loved. The bag was sitting on the kitchen island, a silent leather monolith to our shared life. I didn't hesitate. For 5 years, her purse had been an extension of our home, a place for receipts, lip balm, and the occasional emergency granola bar. My hand brushed past her wallet, a tangle of charging cords, and a small hard bottle I didn't recognize. Curiosity is a funny thing, it's a quiet itch you can't help but scratch. I pulled it out. The label was clinical, the name of the drug stark against the white plastic. Sildenafil, a little blue diamond was printed on the side. My brain took a moment to connect the dots, to translate the pharmaceutical jargon into the language of betrayal. Then it hit me. A gut punch that stole the air from my lungs. Viagra. The word echoed in the sudden, deafening silence of our kitchen. My first instinct was a tidal wave of hot, blinding rage. I wanted to smash the bottle, to throw the purse against the wall, to wait for her to come home so I could scream the question that was burning a hole in my mind. Who is he? But then something colder, something sharper took its place. An icy calm settled over me. Confrontation was messy. It was emotional. It gave her the power to lie, to cry, to twist the narrative until I was the villain for violating her privacy. No, this required precision. It required a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. I thought about our life, the comfortable silences, the shared jokes, the way she still looked at me sometimes. Had it all been a performance, every "I love you," every touch, was it all a carefully constructed lie? The questions multiplied, each one a fresh sting. I walked into our bathroom, my movements deliberate, robotic. I opened the medicine cabinet and my eyes landed on a box of extra-strength laxatives. An idea, ugly and brilliant, began to form. Revenge, I decided, is a dish best served cold. Mine would be served with a side of gastrointestinal distress. I carefully tipped the little blue pills into the toilet, watching them dissolve like my trust in her. Then I opened the laxative tablets. They were roughly the same size. I filled the prescription bottle, clicked the childproof cap back on, and placed it exactly where I'd found it in her purse, nestled beside her wallet. The appetizer, I thought, was a pharmaceutical switcheroo designed to turn her secret rendezvous into a bathroom marathon. I went to work that day a changed man. I wasn't just James Anderson anymore. I was a strategist, a player in a game I never knew I was a part of, and I had just made my first move. The question that haunted me all day wasn't why she was doing this, but when my little trap would spring. What would happen on her next late night at the office or drinks with the girls? All I could do was wait and watch. The wait was agonizing. For a week I was a coiled spring of paranoia, analyzing every text, every phone call, every slightly too long pause in conversation. Jennifer seemed oblivious, floating through our life with the same casual grace she always had. She kissed me goodbye in the morning, her lips tasting of coffee and a lie I couldn't yet prove. Then on Friday she said the words I'd been waiting for. "Honey, I'm going to have to work late tonight. We've got a huge deadline." My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation and dread. "No problem," I said, my voice unnervingly steady. "Don't work too hard." I spent the night picturing the scene. Her and some faceless man, maybe Christopher Davis from her office who she mentioned a little too often. A romantic dinner, a shared bottle of wine, and then the urgent, humiliating sprint to the nearest restroom. The thought brought a grim smile to my face. She came home around midnight, looking pale and exhausted. "Tough night?" I asked, the picture of a concerned partner. "You have no idea," she groaned, clutching her stomach. "I think I got food poisoning from lunch. I've been in agony for hours." "Bingo," I feigned sympathy, getting her a glass of water and a heating pad, my mind alight with a cold, triumphant fire. My trap had worked. The proof was in her pained expression, but my victory felt hollow. Humiliating her wasn't enough. It was a temporary solution to what I now suspected was a permanent problem. The rage was gone, replaced by a chilling certainty. I needed to know everything. The next morning while she was in the shower I went for the purse again. This time I wasn't just looking, I was hunting. I dug deeper past the receipts and the makeup into a small zippered pocket I'd never paid attention to before. My fingers closed around a small, square foil packet. I pulled it out. My blood went ice cold. It was a condom, not just one, a pack of 3. This was different. The pills could have been a desperate, misguided experiment. This was premeditated. This was proof. The first betrayal had been a spark. This one was a full-blown inferno. My mind raced. What was the next move? A bigger, more permanent move. A move that would ensure her betrayal would have consequences she could never trace back to me. I took the foil packets into my study. Sitting at my desk under the bright glare of my lamp, I took a pin from a sewing kit. The metal glinted. With a steady hand I pushed the tiny, sharp point through the center of each packet. Once, twice, 3 times, I created tiny, invisible alterations. Breathing room, I'd called it in my mind. But it was a life sentence. I was no longer just settling a score. I was rigging the game with a devastating finality. I carefully placed the compromised packets back into the zippered pocket, a ticking time bomb waiting in the dark. I had just swapped out her queen and punctured her king. She thought she was playing chess, but I had changed the rules of the entire board. The weeks that followed were a masterclass in deception. On the surface, we were perfect. We had dinner with friends, we planned a weekend getaway, we fell back into the rhythm of a couple deeply in love. But beneath the surface, a silent war was being waged. I was watching her every move, a silent warden in a prison of my own making. And she was happier than I'd seen her in months. Genuinely happy. It was unsettling. Her laughter didn't seem forced, her affection felt real. It was so convincing that tiny, treacherous slivers of doubt began to creep into my mind. Had I overreacted? Had I concocted this entire conspiracy from a few misplaced items? Then one evening, it all came to a head. She met me at the door when I came home from work. Her eyes sparkling with an intensity that made my stomach clench. She was practically vibrating with nervous energy. "I have something to tell you," she said, her hands trembling slightly as she held them behind her back. "This is it," I thought, the confession. She's going to end it. "Close your eyes," she whispered. I did as she asked, my mind bracing for the impact. I heard a faint rustling, then she said, "Okay, open them." In her outstretched hand she was holding a positive pregnancy test. That little plus sign was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life. Her face was a canvas of pure, unadulterated joy, her eyes filled with tears. "James," she breathed, her voice thick with emotion, "you're gonna be a dad." A slow, cold smile spread across my face. It was the smile of a chess master witnessing his opponent walk directly into a checkmate they had no idea was coming. Outwardly, I was the picture of a joyous father-to-be. I hugged her, spun her around, and kissed her, playing my part to perfection. But inside, a mental checklist was running on a loop. Item 1, the Viagra I found and the explosive laxatives I replaced them with. Check. Item 2, the protection for her other friend and the pin-sized holes that guaranteed failure. Check. She thought she was handing me a beautiful surprise, but all I could see was a ticking time bomb. The baby she was carrying was the living, breathing proof of her affair. My revenge was complete. Christopher Davis, or whoever he was trapped. He was about to become a father and wouldn't even know it. She had handed me the ultimate weapon, and her smile was priceless. She thought she was dropping a life-changing bomb on me, not realizing I was the one who had supplied the fuse and lit the match weeks ago. But as I held her, a strange, dissonant thought cut through my triumph. A detail from the past that didn't quite fit. A memory from 6 months ago. A sterile doctor's office. A quiet clinical conversation, and a simple outpatient procedure. You see, Jennifer didn't know my secret. The secret I had been keeping for half a year, ever since my suspicions about her late nights first started to fester. The secret that was supposed to be my ultimate safety net. 6 months ago, I'd had a vasectomy. It had been confirmed as fully effective 2 months prior. The smile on my face became fixed, a mask of stone. The baby wasn't Christopher's, and it sure as heck wasn't mine. My perfectly constructed game, my checkmate, had just been obliterated. I wasn't a player in a 2-person drama. I was a pawn in a conspiracy so twisted I couldn't even begin to see the edges of the board. She was celebrating, and I was realizing my revenge hadn't destroyed our relationship. It had stumbled into a much darker, more complicated truth. The game wasn't over, the real chaos had just begun. The next 2 weeks I became a ghost in my own home. My triumph had curdled into a cold, gnawing dread. I was no longer a vengeful husband, I was a detective trying to solve the most intimate and terrifying mystery of my life. Who was the third player? While Jennifer was busy reading pregnancy books and shopping for baby clothes online, I was sifting through the digital debris of her life. Bank statements, emails, social media, call logs. I was looking for the thread. The one loose end that would allow me to unravel everything. Late one night while she was sleeping, I was scrolling through months of credit card statements. Dinners, shopping, gas, it was all painfully normal, but then I saw it, a recurring charge, a small one easy to miss from a company I didn't recognize, Biogen Solutions. It was coded as a medical expense. A quick search sent a jolt of electricity through me. Biogen Solutions wasn't a pharmacy or a doctor's office. It was a cryobank, a sperm bank. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying, sickening finality. The room started to spin. The entire narrative I had built, the affair, the betrayal, my clever revenge, was a house of cards built on a foundation of my own paranoia. It was all wrong. The next evening I sat her down on the sofa. I didn't shout, my voice was quiet, hollow. We need to talk. She saw the look on my face and her smile faltered. I didn't start with my discovery, I started with hers. I know about the pills, Jennifer, the ones I found in your purse. Her face went white, she opened her mouth to speak but I kept going. And I know about the protection I found a week later. Tears welled in her eyes. James, it's not what you think. Isn't it? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. You've been seeing Christopher Davis, haven't you? You got careless, and now you're pregnant with his child. She stared at me, a mixture of shock and horror on her face. And then she did something I didn't expect. She laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh, it was a broken, hysterical sound that sent a chill down my spine. Christopher, she choked out between sobs. Oh, you fool, Christopher is gay, he's my best friend, he's been my rock through all of this. All of what? I demanded. Her confession came out in a torrent of tears and fractured sentences. The story she told was so much more devastating than the one I had invented. We had been trying for a baby for almost 2 years. My pride, my refusal to even consider that the problem might be me had built a wall between us. I wouldn't see a doctor, I refused to even talk about it. So she took matters into her own hands. A friend of hers had a prescription for Viagra. She told Jennifer that some studies suggested it could help with certain male fertility issues. Desperate, Jennifer had gotten some. She was grinding a quarter of a pill into my coffee every morning, hoping it would give us the little boost we needed. It was a secret, misguided attempt to help me, to save my ego from the one thing I couldn't handle. The idea that I might be the reason we couldn't have a family. The affair I'd been so sure of was a desperate act of love. And the protection, I asked, my own construct crumbling around me. That was from that stupid night we went out for Kimberly's birthday, she cried. Some creep at the bar wouldn't leave me alone. Christopher stepped in, pretended to be my boyfriend, and palmed the guy's condoms from his jacket just to mess with him. I shoved them in my purse and forgot they were even there. It was a joke, James. Every word was a nail in the coffin of my certainty, the laxatives I'd swapped, the fury I'd felt, the pinpricks of vengeance, it was all directed at a phantom. The baby, I whispered, the final piece needing to fall into place. It's not Christopher's, she said, her voice dropping. She looked at me, her eyes pleading for me to understand. After months of nothing working, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I went to a clinic, James, a fertility clinic. I used a donor. I was so scared to tell you. I thought if I just got pregnant you'd be so happy to be a dad that the how wouldn't matter. I was going to tell you, I swear I was. Silence descended on the room, thick and heavy. I looked at the woman in front of me, her face streaked with tears, and I didn't see a villain. I saw someone who had been pushed to desperate measures by my own stubborn pride. My revenge plot wasn't a righteous campaign. It was a monument to my own failure as a partner. Then the final, crushing weight of my own secret came crashing down. I had to tell her. It wouldn't have worked anyway, I said, my voice barely audible. The coffee, it would never have worked. What are you talking about? I couldn't look at her, I just stared at my hands. 6 months ago, I had a vasectomy. The sound she made was a sharp, wounded gasp. The color drained from her face. In that moment we both saw the truth. We were 2 strangers sitting in the wreckage of a home we had built together, destroyed not by a single act of betrayal but by 1,000 tiny secrets, a million unspoken words. She was carrying a child that wasn't mine, a choice she made out of desperation. And I, in my blind, arrogant rage, had committed acts of sabotage against an enemy that never existed. She thought she was handing me a beautiful surprise. Instead, she had unknowingly exposed the monster I had become. The plus sign on that test wasn't the start of our family. It was the verdict on our relationship, a life sentence we now had to serve. She was celebrating a beginning while I was left staring into an abyss of my own making, forced to live with what I had done. The game was over and everybody had lost.